Let's begin with research process step. We have already done the introduction in the previous chapter. So research can be the thing that makes or breaks a project, whether it's an essay, a presentation, or an important scientific endeavor. Without thorough research, it is likely that work will fall flat. With that in mind, how do we ensure that our research process is effective? So in this PPT today, we'll cover the research process from top to bottom, learning all the details about implementing effectively and carefully considered research by end of this chapter. You'll have the tool necessary to smash any research project. It's basically a set of ordered steps a researcher takes to ensure that all parts of investigation are completed to a high standard. Following the research process allows the researcher to cover all angles and ensure that information they gathered is reliable and effectively presented. Anything you write or involves organization and a logic flow of idea. So, understanding the logic of the research process before beginning to write is essential. Simply put, you need to put your writing in the larger context. See the forest before you even attempt to see the trees. So in this brief introduction module, we'll review the major steps in the research processes. Conceptualize here as series of steps within a circle, with each step dependent on the previous one. The circle best depicts the recursive nature of processes, that is, once the process has been completed, the researcher may begin again by refining or expanding on the initial approach, or even pioneering a completely new approach to solving the problem. So first step is identifying a research problem. So you identify a research problem by first selecting a general topic, then interesting to you and to the interest and specialities of your research advisor. Once identified, you'll need to narrow it. For example, if teenager pregnancy is your general topic area, your specific topic could be a comparison of how teenage pregnancy affects young fathers and mothers differently. Then comes review the literature or evaluate the literature. So find out what's being asked or what's already been done in the area by doing some exploratory reading. Discuss the topic with your advisor to gain additional insight, explore novel approaches, and begin to develop your research questions, purpose statement, and hypothesis, if applicable. Determining research questions. So a good research question is a question worth asking, one that poses a problem worth solving. So a question should be very clear. Be clear with your question. It must be understandable to you and to others. Be researchable. It should be capable of developing into a manageable research design. So, data may be collected in relation to it. Extremely abstract terms are unlikely to be suitable. Connect with established theory and research. There should be a literature on which you can draw to illuminate how your research questions should be approached. Be neither too broad nor too narrow. See a brief explanation of the narrowing process and how your research question, purposes, statement, and hypothesis are interconnected. So research question, purpose statements, and hypothesis. A good example of how to narrow your topic into a good research questions. Too broad, like you can say a rural America. So it is very difficult to understand what kind of research will you be doing on rural America, because it's very broad and vague topic. What you need to do here is a little bit of narrowing down. When you narrow it down, you do a role of women in rural America. Now, this helps you to understand what are you talking about or what your research wants to portray. Then you need to draft your research question. So what is the central role of women in today's farming communities in rural America? So If you are asked to write a proposal before you begin your actual research, the proposal will contain a purpose statement that states in some detail what you want to learn about in your research. It looks something like example will take this study will examine your purpose statement leads to write a more refined thesis or hypothesis, an assertion that you can define and support with evidence gathered in your literature review. So, in the United States, government regulation plays an important role in the fight against pollution. Or conversely, we can say United States government regulation has little effect in the fight against air pollution. So the type of design select for your study depends on your research questions, hypothesis, or a problem. You'll use the evidence you gathered in your research to confirm or reject your hypothesis. Then comes you need to develop research methods. So once you have finalized your research questions, purpose statements, and hypotheses, you will need to write your research proposal. That is a detailed management plan for your research project. The proposal is an essential to successful research as an architect's plans are to construction of a building. So when we say research proposals, let's go into a little bit deep. Components of research proposal. So in general, the proposal components includes introduction, literature review, research design and methods, and timeline. So introduction here provides reader with a broad overview of problem and context. Then shows how your approach built on existing research helps you identify methodological. Then the research design and methods describes how will you go about answering your research questions and confirming your hypothesis. So these are the basic steps that we have studied in literature review. Then comes creating the hypothesis. So formulating an original hypothesis is the next logical step after narrowing down the research topic and defining it. A belief solves logical relationship between variables. So in order to establish a hypothesis, a researcher must have a certain amount of expertise in the field. So it is important for a researcher to keep in mind while formulating a hypothesis that is must be on the research topic. Researchers are able to concentrate their efforts and stay committed to their objective when they develop theories to guide their work. So it's basically a plan for achieving objectives and answering research questions. It outlines how to get relevant information. Its goals is to design research. So in that, research design plays a very vital role, which aims to minimize the time, money, effort required to acquire meaningful evidence. So this plan basically fits into 4 categories: exploratory and survey, experiment, data analysis, and observation. Then comes your prescribed population. Research projects usually look at a specific group of people, facilities, or how technology is used in the business. In research, the term population refers to this study group. The research topic and purpose help determine the study group. Suppose a researcher wishes to investigate a certain group of people in the community. In that case, the research could target a specific age group, males or females, a geographical location, or an ethnic group. A final step is a study design is to specify its simple sample or population so that the result may be generalized. A very important step next is data collection, which is important in obtaining the knowledge or information required to answer research issues. Every research collected data, either from literature or people being studied, data must be collected from 2 categories of research. The source may provide primary data or secondary data. So in the primary data, you have to experience experiment, questionnaire, observation, or interviews. Wherein in secondary data, it could inculcate literature survey, official and unofficial reports, and approach based on library resources. After you collect data, data analysis is important. So during research design, the researcher plans data analysis. So after collecting the data, the researcher analyzes it. The data is examined based on the approach in this step. The research findings are reviewed and reported. Data analysis involves a number of closely related stages, such as setting up categories, applying these categories to raw data through coding and tabulation, and then drawing statistical conclusion. The researcher can examine the acquired data using a variety of statistical methods. Then come the last step, report writing. After completing all these steps, the researcher must prepare a report detailing his findings. The report must be carefully composed with the following in mind. There should be a proper layout. On the first page, the title, date, acknowledgement, and the preface should be on the report. The table of content should be followed by a list of tables, graphs, and charts, if any. Then introduction. It should state the research purpose and methods. This section should include the study scope and limits. Summary findings. A non-technical summary of findings and recommendations will follow the introduction. So the findings should be summarized if they are lengthy. Principal report. The main body of the report should make sense and be broken up into sections that are easy and to understand. Conclusion. The researcher should restate his findings at the end of the main text. It's the final result. So overall, the research process involves several steps that make it easy to complete the research successfully. The steps in the research process described depend on each other, and the order must be kept similar. So if you want to do research project, we should definitely follow certain steps for a good final result or to get a productive or a qualitative finding.